Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast. I'm Gus Kattengell, along with Mr. Jim Eichenhofer, Pelicans.com. DeAndre Jordan joining us for this week's episode. DeAndre, thank you for your time, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it as well. Got a lot to get into, man. And I guess that kind of happens when you're now almost 20 years into the NBA. There's a lot to talk about a little bit, man. Is it still kind of surprising, man, that you're almost 2 decades in?
Yeah, it's surprising. It's a very humbling experience for me, just being a second-round pick and the ups and the downs that I've gone through in my career and learning different things. And now I'm in a totally different role, which has been amazing, and I've been able to relish in that. And this is a new challenge for me. It's totally different from what I've been used to. But being able to give back if I'm not out there playing, being able to have my impact on the game and teaching the young guys and giving them insight and just helping our team camaraderie, I think is huge, and I really enjoy doing that.
Yeah, right. From being a rookie to now kind of really being a voice for really 3 rookies on this franchise that I think a lot of Pels fans are really excited about. So let's just kind of get into that. You kind of touched on it a little bit right now, and kind of that role. What has that role been like? What has it been like when you first meet these guys, when you first sign on to the team, and how's that gone to where we are now in December?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun. We're making strides. Obviously, our record isn't showing what we're doing and the improvements that we're making, but you got to think that Jeremiah Fears is supposed to be in college. He upclassed, I believe. Derek Queen is 20 years old. Micah Peavy's a little older, but he's still a rookie. So those guys are playing a lot of minutes, and 2 of those guys are starting. So to be able to, one, be 20-year-old starting the center position in the Western Conference in the NBA is extremely tough. And also starting at point guard at 19 years old when you're supposed to be in college in the NBA on the Western Conference with the amount of talent that we have in this league, and especially in our conference, is amazing. And those guys, they've held their own. So I'm really proud of them, and Micah has played extremely well in the different roles that he's been given throughout the first 30 games of the season. So those guys are going to have a head start on a lot of rookies, and I'm really proud of them and the things that they've been able to do, especially once we get our full team back and everybody's healthy and they've gotten the minutes like this and they've been able to be in those crunch time games. That's going to help them and our team even more.
I feel like people say about some of the guys that come into the league that there's different types of rookies in terms of how receptive they are to, instruction and some of the wisdom that the players that have been in the league for a long time can give them. What's been your perception of them so far in terms of their willingness to learn? And we see you all the time, maybe during timeouts on the sideline, taking them aside, or as they walk off the court during a break, talking to them. What's that been like?
It's been pretty easy. We don't have, I don't know if this is a family-friendly show, so I'm not going to say certain things. But I mean, those guys, listen, they aren't prima donnas, you know what I mean? In my case, 18 years ago, I didn't have a choice. I had to listen, or there would be consequences from the vest that I had. But I have at times more of a gentle approach when it comes to them. But I mean, sometimes you got to be a little bit more constructive with your criticism with those guys, because some things they respond to and some things they need a little bit more of a tough love teaching. And I think that's great, being able to talk to guys a different way. And I think it's also comes with the years in the league, knowing I can talk to Fears one way and DQ a different way and PB a different way. So it's good to be able to have that mixture. But I also kind of want to let them learn from their mistakes as well, and kind of let them tell me what they see instead of giving them the answer or letting them see what or tell them what I see all the time.
One of the things I think a lot of fans are curious about is, and this is not a bad thing, but how many times we've seen Jeremiah Fears get into it a little bit with an opposing player and even DQ a little bit here and there. Yeah. But I mean, what's your perception of that? Is it just that they're in a position where it's like they don't want to be pushed around because they're rookies? Is that basically what it is? Of why that's happening a lot?
I think it's a little bit of that. I mean, those guys, they have really, similar backgrounds. Fears being from Chicago and DQ being from Baltimore. They don't take a lot of stuff. So I'm really happy to see that. We've talked to Fears about him donating a lot of his money back to the NBA Cares program. We want him to not do that as much. He can buy me a bottle of wine instead. But I love that they have the chip on their shoulder. They're not going to back down from anybody. I love that. And it's something that they're going to be doing for a long time, just hopefully not getting technical fouls. Right. But I love the toughness that they have. And it's great and it's contagious. And they're going to be in this league for a very long time and both be great players.
I kind of want to touch on that because that's something that really stood out. You go back to that Phoenix game, right? Jeremiah said, look, hey, I could have come out. I want to stay on there. Derek Queen, we've seen a couple of times go toe-to-toe a little verbally. And then, Jeremiah and Luka, just meeting at the head for a little head buddy. But I would rather somebody that had that competitiveness and fire and try to teach them to, kind of care like that. And I guess just in your career, when you see that in guys that are just, not even 24 games at that time, not even 20 games at that time, that's just who you are. It's the makeup, right? And you can work with that because that makes them coachable, don't you think?
And it shows that they care too. It shows that they care. It shows that they have because you can't teach effort and care and physicality and things like that, and those guys have it. And I think them being able to prove that now while we're in this learning stage, when we do excel and this team starts to turn it around, that'll still be their attitude. And they want to win, they're competitive, they care about the game. So when you see that response, I can't get mad at that because I'm like, you actually care. Some people will just be, oh, we're losing, it's okay, but they don't like that, and they're gonna talk back with the best of them. So I like that about them too.
Yeah, one of the things that you said earlier that I wanted to kind of go back to quickly because I know we're going to get into more of like why you've been in the league so long, how you've been successful for this amount of time. But when you first came into the league, and I think it was 2008, you were drafted.
Yep.
Did you think like I want to play 10 years in the league? Was this long of a career something that even crossed your mind? Like how did you see your longevity when you first came in?
When I came in, I was 19, so I was thinking that I'm going to play forever.
Yeah.
like I feel great. I'm 19. I can do whatever, and I'm fine. But as my career started to develop, then personal accolades and collective wins and things you wanted to achieve, and I've done those things. Now I'm like, I want to get to a point where I am happy with that, and I am happy with that. Now I'm at peace with my career. I would love to play 20 years. That's my goal. Because it's such a huge accomplishment. There's been a handful of guys to be able to do it, and that'd be a great group to be a part of. Yeah.
When you look at being able to play that long, I guess one of the things that I can almost tie back into what we're seeing now with you're helping with the rookies is understanding that yes, there's talent, there's basketball, there's so much more to that. We've seen a couple of times, and we've already documented on this podcast how Greg Monroe sits with Derek and looking at film before games and taking that onto the court. Jeremiah doing the same thing with Coach Miles. How much of that for people that are watching right now, for you to be successful at this level, is putting all of that into practice, how you practice, how you prepare, how you film study, and then how you play on a game day?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you said it. The preparation is the most important thing, whether it's in practice and shoot around on days off. Some guys come back and shoot the night before the game at the arena. And then the film, I think, is very, very important. I think it's an undervalued thing that is in this league. And it's not just about watching your minutes. It's about watching the entirety of the game and watching the flow of the game, how it changes when you go out, how it changes when you come back in. And not only watching, like I talked to DQ last night, and, we're on him about watching the games and watching, things. And I'm like, make sure you watch the first half and the second half. We talked about that because it's like those are two totally different players, And just for him to be able to recognize that early on and be like, hey, you know what? I need to play like I did in the second half for the whole game. And maybe that game looks different. Maybe it doesn't, but, it's just you can't turn it on and off. And I think when you watch it on film, the film doesn't lie. So I think a lot of that is apparent there. So I think that film is extremely important.
Wanted to ask you just about, you touched on some of this in terms of how a guy plays in the league this long. When you give advice, I'm sure a lot of the stuff that you talk about with the rookies is not about 10 years from now. It's about trying to be successful tonight or this week or this month. But if you sat down with some of these guys and told them this is how you can be 18 years in the league, I mean, you mentioned some of it, but I mean, I would imagine that there's other stuff that you've learned along the way in terms of like how to take care of your body physically, preparation, rest. I mean, I'm sure this answer could be 15 minutes just in itself, but I mean, what are some of the things that you tell somebody if you're talking to somebody on your team about how to be in the league for a long time the way you have been?
I think it's just this is a very broad thing, but just be a pro, be professional, whether that's taking care of your body, what you put into your body, sleep, your work, your reps, everything. Like all of that stuff goes under the same umbrella. And it's also like, I feel good, so I don't think I need a massage, or I don't need to get in the cold tub, or I can eat bad tonight, which is fine. Like you can have in moderation, but
sure,
all of that stuff adds up, and it helps the longevity of your career.
Just for, I guess, for fans to kind of get a little insight to it, since you've been working obviously with Derek a little bit more, we see what he did to start the work week, man, back against San Antonio, but you see him at practice, talk to him throughout the games and stuff. Who is Derek Queen? And what kind of player is he, and can he be? And like when you sit down and watch film with him, or you talk to him, or you're talking to him in the game, what kind of player is he for players, or for people that maybe don't watch the games? They're like, oh, we see some stats, maybe I should pay attention.
Yeah.
Who is he?
First of all, DQ is a kid, you know, and I think you have to give him a little bit of grace too, because he is a kid still, but he's extremely talented. He's going to be a really great player in this league for a long time, I'm hoping. And he's a sponge. Like he wants to be better. He wants to be good. He wants to be one of the guys. And I love that about him and Fierce both, because they're hungry. You know, they were both lottery picks, but they play with a chip on their shoulder, which I love about both of those guys. But like I said, they're super inviting to things that you see, criticism, and they take it the right way. You know, some guys would sometimes shell up, but they embrace it. And when you got young guys like that, that's going to be a highlight, because those guys are ready to accept any challenge. And like I said, they're both sponges. They want to get better. They watch film. They work on their game, and that's all you can ask for.
Being a big, when you see some of the moves that he does, or can you go back to maybe some of the plays? I think of you, I think of like the physicality, you know, you want to break that rim and dunk it and stuff like that. Yeah. He has that sort of finesse at the same time, and he can play that. It's interesting.
He's extremely talented, man. He can handle the basketball. He has a great mid-range jumper. He's super crafty from the elbow. And he's a hell of a passer. He's a hell of a playmaker. And I think like a lot of times he wants to make plays for guys. So that just shows his unselfishness as a player. But like once he starts to develop that stuff, once he works on his body a little more, he's going to be a problem. He already is. So seeing that, I'm really happy with what we have here. And I think those guys will be here for a very long time, and they'll both be really great.
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, to put it in context right before we go to break here, I mean, it's so early, you know, it's great when your coaches are referring to you as hubs and things of that nature. That's a lot. I mean, that means you're impacting the game.
Absolutely,
isn't it?
Yeah. So. Absolutely. Those guys are both decision makers in our offense, on our team, and we're asking a lot of them. But like I said, they got a head start, and they'll have the blueprint very, very early. So I'm happy for those guys.
Well, Jim's almost been here 20 years. I've been here 3, and he tells me to stick to the script. So he doesn't trust me to do that. And sticking to the script, we'll do that. When we come back, we'll ask DeAndre a little bit about his career in its entirety here, and especially, I don't know, did he have a vet or two? That's kind of like he is now, kind of pushing him a little bit. You probably know who I'm going to get into here in a little bit as the Pelicans podcast continues after this. All right, welcome back to the New Orleans Pelicans podcast. Once again, Jim, our thanks to DeAndre Jordan, who, if you really enjoy that conversation like we did, it was just too much for one episode, a two-parter. On Tuesday, we'll have more with DeAndre Jordan and kind of focus a little bit more on really what I think is so magnificent in terms of the full circle of his career, right? Mm-hmm. And he touched on it with all the different aspects of it. But now in this role with the Pels that he started with our conversation, it's not easy, is it, to sit on that bench? You want to play and at the same time almost be a coach and mentor. And he's done an amazing job with it.
He really has. And, by the way, I knew we weren't going to be able to probably contain him with just one episode. So looking forward to hearing more from him in part 2. I think, you talk about how it's difficult to take on that role. I mean, I think anyone who's played sports, anyone who's competitive knows there's some people never have to deal with this, but there's times where you're not going to play at all. And it's tough. It's tough to go through that situation. You want to be on the court. You want to be able to contribute. But I think he has the wisdom of understanding that, okay, maybe on the court, I'm not going to be able to produce and help as much, but there's so many other ways that I can benefit a team. And I want to say too that, I've seen this with players that have been here in the past. If you look around the NBA and you look at the guys maybe at the end of the bench or guys that don't play very much, I just respect the fact that he has the character and the self-awareness to know that, I can play. I know he said he wants to play in the league 20 years, which is, he only has to do 2 more years to do that. But guys like that, just keep that in mind. When you see players like that, that they must be pluses across the board in all of the intangible categories. And that's one of the biggest reasons why teams continue to add players like him to their roster, even if they know, okay, maybe he's not going to start, maybe he's not going to play 35 minutes a night, maybe he might not play at all. But even with him not playing, he still is helping us in a bunch of different categories that are hard to measure.
Yeah, and to your point, I think what's interesting is it's not maybe statistics or something you would see in a box score, right? But even here in New Orleans, we saw back in the day on the football side of things, guys like what Roman Harper, Malcolm Jenkins brought to that secondary. They even brought him back, Sean Payton did, when they had a young secondary to help mentor them here as well. And we've seen it. We're going to get into it a little bit about how Fears and Queen have handled it. But kind of something that I've been able to see, to your point, when you go on the road, you want to talk about a respected player. He's a respected player. And I'm not just talking about from the teammates, but from the person that is there, that's part of the security detail or a staffer from another team. They all come up and run and say hello to DeAndre. He knows everybody by name. He knows those things. And Jim, one thing as we close out the segment that really stands out to me, very few people can walk in and command a room. He can command your attention in a room. We just saw it in the last, few games here with the Pels. In game, hey, get over here, do this, and boom, the instant dividends that he pays. But when you can have a player like that on your roster, on your road trip, on your plane, in your hotel and all that, that is valuable.
Yeah, it really is. And I like his personality is just very positive and very
He's always
upbeat.
smiling.
Yeah, and I think behind the scenes, like it seems like he goes out of this is another thing that keeps guys in the league a long time. He goes out of his way to say hi to people, to get to know people, even if you don't want to be the person that only talks to people if they can do something positive for you, like you can get something out of it, basically. It just seems like he's, in a very brief amount of time, he's really done well in terms of just reaching out to people. Maybe he doesn't know every single person's name around here. I wouldn't expect him to, but he's definitely been good about interacting with everyone and for people to know. And you can see why when you go on the road or even in the games here, you see players from other teams coming over to say hello to him too. He's been on a few teams, and it seems like he's been a popular teammate everywhere he's been, and it's kind of obvious to see. Yeah, no doubt. Well, we started out the work week with speaking about the rookie ladder. Well, the latest rookie ladders come out, and their Pels are still 3-5. Just the names have switched, which means we have to talk about the rookies, Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen a little bit more. So we'll do that when we come back and wrap up this edition of the New Orleans Pelicans podcast. All right, welcome back to the New Orleans Pelicans podcast. Jim, I don't know if you know this, but the rookies for your New Orleans Pelicans are kind of a storyline this season, have been playing well. Look, not just the statistics, but DeAndre Jordan brought something up to you that really stood out. They've had a chance to play on the court in order to produce those statistics. They're getting the minutes. How rare is that? What is something that you found? Yeah, I think it's it's definitely a silver lining of the season that maybe when you went into the year, you didn't think that, it wasn't a given that Jeremiah Fears was going to start. It only took him 3 or 4 games, and then he was in the starting lineup. It wasn't a given based on Derek Queen missing all of preseason that he was going to immediately jump in or relatively quickly become a prominent contributor. But as we record this, entering the Portland game, Fears is 3rd in the NBA in minutes among rookies, and Queen is 7th. I think that number for Queen is going to keep increasing, or that ranking, because he did start slowly where he had some games where he played 10, 15 minutes before he moved in the starting lineup. So, I mean, they've both played over 600 minutes, which is great. I mean, DeAndre used the term head start. It's definitely the kind of thing that, even though, you know, the wins haven't come so far, I do think that this is going to pay off when you go into next season, because these guys are going to have so much time under their belt and so much experience that they got on the court, as opposed to just kind of sitting on the side and watching. Yeah,
no doubt. And obviously being in those situations like clutch games and potential game winners. I mean, you can't simulate them. Right. I mean, you have to go through them. And along those lines, let's start with Jeremiah Fears here a little bit. When you start, and especially at that position, why does the word consistency stand out to me?
I mean, we talked about this a little bit.
The importance of it.
With DeAndre as well. It's just that position is a challenge, because there's probably 25 great starting point guards in the NBA where every single night you're going against somebody who's really good, and if you're not ready to play, you're going to look bad. But the biggest, I mean, what stands out to me from a consistency standpoint is in the first 25 games of the season, he had 16 times where he scored 15 plus points. So he hasn't had these big fluctuations where it's like one night he scores 2 points, the next he has 22, the next night he has 4. He's been somebody that you can rely on. He's going to have games here or there where it's like, yeah, he's a rookie. But I think he's been somebody that you can really count on. The other thing too with him, from an efficiency standpoint, he's shooting 44% from the field, 37 from 3, 80 on free throws. The 44%, one thing I want to look at specifically, Damian Lillard as a rookie, 43%. De'Aaron Fox as a rookie, 41%. Darius Garland, 40%. Cade Cunningham, 42%. That position, you see so many of these guys where the worst efficient season they have is their rookie year at point guard. So, like, this is a really good starting point, I think, for Jeremiah Fears. And I think even this season, he'll continue to get better in that area.
I like how you put that. In these all-star players' rookie season was their worst in doing it. You know, the Pels rookie point guard is doing so well already on that. All right, when you look at Derek Queen, I don't know what I enjoyed the most, watching him finally kind of show his paint styles and the moves and his steps in there, or is it his passing game that is the most fun to watch?
To me, it's his passing, because it's so unique. I think he does a lot of things that are kind of one-offs where it's like you don't see players do this, especially rookies, but just the way he sees the floor. And I mean, one stat of the Pelicans have 7 guys who've played at least 20 games this season. He's leading the team in assists with 3.9 per game. Again, another number that I think is going to increase.
Right.
But the fact that he's leading the squad in that area just is kind of tangible evidence of how good of a passer he is. But if you watch the games, it's like, it seems like he's averaging 7 assists a game or 8 assists a game. He's been so impressive, especially since he started playing more.
I think the thing that's just impressive to me more than anything else as we wrap up is that you've seen teams this season try to take the ball out of his hands, you know, double him, come up with game plans. One game or so early on in the James Borrego, era, he's like, hey, this team came in to stop him. That just doesn't happen to a rookie center, much less.
Right. It's the ultimate respect that now people talk about this a lot in the NBA, where at the beginning of the season, I think he was barely mentioned in the opposing scouting report. Now he's like near the top of the list. So that is a great sign in terms of that other teams are going into games saying we have to figure out how to slow him down and how to keep him from having a huge night.
Well, have a great weekend. When we come back next week, more DeAndre Jordan as he sits down and chats with us a little bit more about his career. So that was fun. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode. This is Jim Eichenhofer. I'm Gus Kattengell. As always, appreciate you for tuning in.